In every age, people have asked the same questions. What is the good life? How should we treat one another? What does it mean to be free or virtuous or just? What does it mean to be human? Western moral philosophy for beginners and Selenius Media takes you on a guided journey through the minds that shaped the moral backbone of the West, from the earliest Greek thinkers to the modern age. Lived stories of struggle, ambition, conflict, revelation, all unfolding against the sweep of history. If you've ever wanted to understand philosophy clearly, calmly, and humanly, if you want to know not just what these thinkers argued, but why it mattered, follow Western moral philosophy for beginners today and explore 10 more podcasts at Selenius Media. Chrysippus of Soli, who lived around 279 BCE, is one of the most important Stoic philosophers, often regarded as the second founder of Stoicism, after Zeno of Citium. He played a crucial role in shaping the doctrines of this philosophical school during the Hellenistic period, which was characterized by a flourishing of philosophical thought amid the political upheaval following the conquests of Alexander the Great. While many of his works have been lost, his influence on subsequent philosophical traditions, especially within the context of moral philosophy, cannot be understated. Chrysippus is particularly famous for his contributions to ethics, logic, and physics, but at the heart of his moral philosophy lay the idea of living in accordance with nature. He asserted that the purpose of human life is to attain eudaimonia, or a state of flourishing, through virtuous living. This virtue is aligned with rationality, which Chrysippus believed to be the distinguishing feature of humanity. Therefore, understanding how to act rightly, according to Chrysippus, involves cultivating reason and aligning one's actions with nature's order. One of Chrysippus's central moral ideas involves the concept of virtue as sufficient for happiness. This assertion can be broken down into a few core arguments that are foundational to understanding his ethics. First, he argued that true happiness cannot be derived from external possessions or ephemeral pleasures. Instead, it emerges from within, through the practice of virtue. This idea challenges the notion that wealth, status, or pleasure can lead one to a fulfilling life. For Chrysippus, virtues like wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice are inherently valuable and are essential to achieving a good life. To delve deeper into his philosophy, let us explore his argument concerning the role of reason in ethical decision-making. Chrysippus contended that reason is the faculty through which humans can discern what is good and what is bad. This leads to the notion that knowledge of the good naturally results in virtuous action. He maintained that if one truly understands the nature of virtue, one must act accordingly. Thus, ignorance is the root of moral failure. This aspect of his philosophy echoes the teachings of Socrates, who famously stated that no one willingly does wrong, suggesting that if a person acts immorally, it is due to a lack of understanding or knowledge. Chrysippus also emphasized the idea of oikasis, which refers to the process of becoming familiar or attached to what is natural and good for oneself and the community. This notion expands the Stoic understanding of ethics to embrace not only self-interest, but also the well-being of others. Oikesis posits that human beings naturally gravitate toward their own good, but this extends to the greater good of society. Therefore, the moral agent's responsibility is to recognize that their well-being is interconnected with that of others. In this way, Chrysippus provided a framework for understanding ethical behavior that balances personal virtue with social responsibility. These ideas resonate even in contemporary discourse, particularly in how we navigate modern political and social realities. For example, consider the discussion around wealth inequality. Many individuals believe that material success equates to happiness. Chrysippus would challenge this viewpoint by encouraging reflection on how societal structures foster genuine well-being. He would argue that fostering virtues like justice and temperance is vital for not just personal happiness, but collective prosperity. Thus, policymakers might look to the Stoic principle of virtue as they design systems that prioritize ethical governance and social welfare. In the realm of personal ethics, Chrysippus's ideas can also be observed in discussions around mental health and well-being. The idea that we cultivate our inner virtues rather than chase external validation aligns closely with contemporary therapeutic practices that emphasize self-acceptance and growth. People are encouraged to recognize their thoughts and feelings as products of their beliefs and values, an awareness Chrysippus might affirm. In a world often preoccupied with outward success, revisiting his teachings can remind us that true fulfillment emanates from within through the cultivation of virtue and rationality. Critiques of Chrysippus's moral philosophy have arisen, particularly regarding his assertion that virtue alone is sufficient for a happy life. Critics argue that this perspective overlooks the complexities of human experience. While living virtuously is undoubtedly significant, empirical evidence suggests that relationships, material comfort, and other external factors also shape our happiness. Some later thinkers, such as the Epicureans, pointed out that pleasure and the avoidance of pain are integral to human existence and fulfillment. They argued for a more nuanced approach to happiness that incorporates both internal and external factors, suggesting that one can achieve eudaimonia through a balanced life that values both pleasure and virtue. In response to such criticisms, later Stoics, including Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, expanded on and contextualized Chrysippus's ideas. They maintained that while external circumstances are indeed influential, the Stoic focus remains steadfastly on the individual's responses to those circumstances. Thus, the Stoic view persists. One cannot control external events, but one can control their judgments and responses to them. This adaptability in Stoicism enhances its resilience against criticisms of being overly simplistic in its understanding of human fulfillment. To see how Chrysippus connects with earlier and later figures in the tradition, we can look to Plato, whose dialogues emphasized the role of the philosopher as a moral guide. While Plato championed the ideal forms and envisioned an objective truth about virtue, Chrysippus brought a more practical approach. Where Plato focused on ideals, Chrysippus sought to translate those ideals into a framework for everyday ethical decision-making, grounded in nature and human rationality. In the later tradition, we can also see how Friedrich Nietzsche, despite his critique of Stoicism, was engaged in a dialogue with the ethics of virtue, albeit in a manner that questioned the absolute nature of good and bad, bringing a more subjective interpretation. In closing, the rich tapestry of Chrysippus's moral philosophy invites us to reflect critically on our own lives. His assertion that happiness is found through virtue serves as a timeless reminder to evaluate where we seek fulfillment and how we define our priorities. As we navigate the complexities of contemporary society, his ideas remain relevant. They encourage each of us to seek the deeper qualities of character and reason, understanding that our responses to external circumstances shape our experiences. By embracing the principles of virtue, rationality, and interconnectedness, we can cultivate a more profound sense of well-being that resonates through our lives and communities. How might we apply these insights into our daily choices, whether in politics, personal relationships, or our inner lives? Reflecting on these questions may provide valuable guidance as we strive for a flourishing existence in a world that often distracts us from what truly matters. Chrysippus's doctrine offers deeper insights that go beyond the surface of individual happiness. When we dig into his arguments about the relationship between virtue and community, we find his moral philosophy pointing toward a greater social responsibility. He understood that as individuals, we cannot thrive in isolation. The very nature of our existence is intertwined with the lives of others, and thus our ethical frameworks must adapt to reflect that reality. One significant aspect of Chrysippus's thought is his idea of cosmopolitanism, which refers to the understanding that all human beings are part of a single global community. This perspective urges us to recognize our shared humanity, not just as citizens of our respective cities or nations, but as members of a broader human family. Chrysippus argued that because our reason connects us and suggests inclinations toward the mutual welfare of one another, our moral obligations extend beyond our immediate relationships. Consider modern challenges such as climate change, which embodies this idea of cosmopolitanism. The consequences of environmental degradation do not respect geographical boundaries. They affect everyone on the planet, often harming the most vulnerable. Chrysippus's philosophy invites us to think critically about our collective responsibilities as global citizens. It highlights the importance of pursuing actions that align with the well-being of both ourselves and future generations. In this light, we are challenged to evaluate our lifestyles and consumption patterns, adopting sustainable practices that align with the Stoic value of living in accordance with nature. Furthermore, we can examine the realm of law and political philosophy through a Chryssippian lens. Chrysippus believed in the importance of justice as a virtue that promotes societal harmony. He laid significant emphasis on the idea that laws should reflect the natural order, linking ethical behavior to governance. Laws are not merely societal agreements, but should serve the ethical function of guiding individuals toward a virtuous life. In the contemporary world, we frequently grapple with legal systems that benefit some while disenfranchising others. The principles derived from Chrysippus's focus on justice can fuel important conversations about the ethics behind legal reform. When evaluating policies related to criminal justice, healthcare, or education, we are encouraged to think about how these systems can nurture a flourishing community for all, rather than merely upholding existing power structures. This Stoic aspiration towards justice pushes us to advocate for reforms that ensure equitable access to opportunities, health, and safety, fulfilling our duty not just as individuals, but as members of society striving for collective virtue. Moreover, when discussing interpersonal relationships, it is valuable to draw on Chrysippus's notion of oikoiosis. This principle not only speaks to self-care, but also highlights a shared responsibility to cultivate the well-being of those around us. A personal example might be engaging in mentorship or community service. When we approach helping others, not only from a perspective of altruism, but also as a rational necessity for our own flourishing, we adopt an ethical approach that can enhance our relationships and contribute positively to the fabric of our community. His insistence on the essentiality of reason serves as a striking reminder today when technology often obfuscates moral clarity. In an age dominated by social media, where reactions can overshadow reasoned deliberation, Chrysippus encourages us to engage consciously with our beliefs and actions. Digital interactions can easily veer into ill-considered remarks or proliferate misinformation. However, by grounding our online engagement in reason and virtue, qualities Chrysippus championed. We can reclaim the ethical discourse that fosters understanding rather than division. Despite these rich ideas, Chrysippus's theories are not without their critiques. One of the more significant limitations of his philosophy relates to the potential for an overly rationalistic approach to ethics. Opponents argue that a focus on reason disregards the emotional dimensions of human experience. While virtue and knowledge are paramount in Chrysippus's framework, emotions such as compassion, love, and empathy are also crucial in guiding our ethical conduct. Later philosophers, including those from the Romantic tradition, emphasize the importance of emotional intelligence in ethical decision-making. They argue that by relegating emotions to a secondary role, we risk alienating our moral sensibilities. In the context of modern psychology, we find that emotional awareness is vital for understanding ourselves and our motivations. This critique paves the way for a blend of rational Stoicism with more emotion-centered frameworks, creating a more holistic approach to ethical living which acknowledges both reason and emotion as guides in our moral lives. Moreover, some modern critics argue that Chrysippus's Stoicism risks presenting a picture of detachment from life's pleasures, suggesting a kind of resignation to fate that may lead people to avoid striving for personal happiness. Critics from existentialist circles, for example, assert that while Stoicism asks us to find virtue in acceptance of our circumstances, it may downplay the significance of individual agency and the pursuit of emotional fulfillment. This has led to interpretations that seek a balance between Stoicism and methods that embrace life's pleasures while still pursuing virtue, an interplay that is crucial to a well-rounded ethical approach. Chrysippus's legacy is also echoed in the thoughts of later Stoics such as Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, who expanded on his ideas while wrestling with these very concerns. Seneca, for instance, emphasized the importance of emotions in his letters, arguing that they must be managed rather than stiffly repressed. He sought to cultivate a Stoicism that acknowledges the human experience in its entirety. Marcus Aurelius, too, while following the Stoic path, infused his meditations with personal reflections that recognize the complexity of human emotion within the quest for virtue. Connecting Chrysippus with earlier figures, we also observe the influence of Aristotle, who emphasized the concept of virtue ethics, a framework focused on the development of moral character through the cultivation of virtues. Chrysippus concurred that character is foundational to the good life, but shifted the focus towards rationality's role in understanding and enacting virtue. Both philosophies underscore systematic approaches to thriving ethically. However, Chrysippus's Stoicism champions a universal framework applicable across dialogues, thus appealing to a broader audience. As we ponder Chrysippus's contributions and the critiques surrounding them, it is essential to consider how both classical and modern thinkers collectively broaden our understanding of moral philosophy, urging us to continuously refine our ethical foundations. The richness of the Stoic tradition combined with contemporary philosophies reinforces the importance of being adaptable in our ethical views. Reflecting on this tapestry of thought, how do we carry these insights into our lives today? As we navigate the ethical complexities around us, from political engagement to personal interactions, the teachings of Chrysippus remind us to anchor our actions in virtue and reason, while considering the emotional and communal contexts in which we operate. The balance between internal rationality and external interconnectedness remains a pressing challenge, compelling us to recognize how our decisions can ripple through the lives of others. As we move beyond this exploration of Chrysippus and his Stoic ideals, I encourage you to reflect on the ways these ancient ideas resonate with your current circumstances. Addressing moral dilemmas, community roles, and personal aspirations through a Stoic lens opens up pathways to a deeper understanding of how we might strive not only for personal fulfillment, but collective flourishing. How do the virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance guide your decisions? In what ways can you embrace the interconnectedness of your life with those around you? Engaging with these timeless questions, we can navigate the complexities of contemporary existence informed by the ancient wisdom of Chrysippus, crafting lives that echo the enduring principles of ethical living and communal responsibility. Through this journey inward and outward, let us strive for a flourishing existence that honors both individual virtues and our shared humanity. Building upon the insights of Chrysippus, it is vital to explore further the implications of his philosophy regarding the role of reason within our moral lives. Chrysippus was not merely an advocate for rationality in action. He believed that reason should be the guiding force in our understanding of the world and our place within it. This foundational belief is what allows us to connect his teachings to a variety of modern dilemmas. For instance, consider the ethical challenges presented by emerging technologies, especially artificial intelligence and algorithm-driven decision-making. In a world where machines increasingly influence our daily lives, from social media feeds that shape our perceptions to algorithms that dictate credit scores, there is an urgent need to assess the ethical concerns that arise. Here, Chrysippus's focus on using reason to discern what is virtuous becomes particularly relevant. When engaging with AI, individuals must ask themselves, how can we ensure these technologies align with the good? How do we cultivate a tech environment that promotes virtue rather than undermines it? Chrysippus would likely urge us to examine how these technologies affect our ability to act virtuously. He might argue for constructing AI systems that enhance human rationality instead of replacing it. Emphasizing human agency and moral decision-making in the face of automation. The Socratic principle that no one willingly does wrong can be seen as a significant touchstone here. If individuals lack the knowledge necessary to understand how a technology influences their decisions, they risk acting immorally through ignorance. Therefore, an ethical framework, according to Chrysippus, would advocate for transparency in technological designs, ensuring that users are not only aware of how these systems operate, but are empowered to make informed decisions tuned into their moral principles. Furthermore, we can expand upon the implications of Chrysippus's notion of oikeiosis in light of our global crises, such as the current climate emergency. Oikeiosis reflects a natural inclination towards caring for oneself and one's community. Today, when confronting issues that are inherently collective, like climate change, Chrysippus's philosophy provides a lens through which we can understand our responsibilities, not just as individuals, but as intertwined members of the broader community. He would likely advocate for policies and practices that reflect a deep understanding of our interconnected existence. In confronting climate change, the question of personal versus collective responsibility becomes crucial. Individuals today are often encouraged to make lifestyle changes to attend to environmental concerns, but these choices should be paired with systemic action. Chrysippus would underscore that while our virtue as individuals is important, it is equally essential to recognize that our well-being is tied to the well-being of the planet and future generations. Adopting sustainable habits, engaging in communal environmental efforts, and pushing for policies that uphold ecological virtues are all aspects we must consider in this modern context. As we delve deeper into the implications of Chrysippus's morality, we must also confront the criticisms of his Stoicism, particularly the potential for philosophical detachment. Critics rightly identify that a focus solely on personal virtue can render individuals insensible to the raw emotions of the human experience. This raises an important question. If reason governs our responses, how do we find a balance with our emotional lives, especially in relationships with others? Emotions like love, anger, and empathy can motivate actions that might lead to virtues realized through concrete relationships. Chrysippus would likely maintain that acknowledging the full spectrum of human feelings does not negate the importance of reason. Rather, it enhances our understanding of how to act rightly in complex social situations. Consider the contemporary challenge of navigating social relationships in a world increasingly polarized by ideology. The emotional landscape surrounding political discourse can erupt into hostility and division. Chrysippus's rationale for ethical behavior encourages us to rise above these sentiments through the exercise of our rational faculties. This does not mean disregarding emotions, but engaging with them wisely. By cultivating an understanding of our emotional responses, we can approach dialogues with a sense of purpose that aligns with virtue, aiming for constructive engagement rather than mere reaction. This brings us to another critical area in moral philosophy today, the field of ethics surrounding mental health. Emphasizing internal virtues aligns seamlessly with modern psychological approaches that advocate for understanding our thought processes and emotions. As mental health issues gain greater recognition in society, the implications of self-knowledge resonate deeply with the idea of cultivating virtue through reason. The Stoic teachings encourage individuals to reflect on their thoughts and behaviors, leading to greater self-awareness. Cognitive behavioral therapy, for example, closely parallels the Stoic method of examining beliefs and responses to events. In doing so, individuals can challenge harmful narratives and, in turn, align their lives more closely with virtuous principles. Chrysippus's stress on knowledge as a precursor to moral action supports this perspective. When individuals equip themselves with the tools to understand their inner lives, they create a framework for virtuous living that fosters resilience. As we navigate these emotional landscapes, it is also worth considering how Chrysippus's philosophy intersects with the modern discourse on social justice. The principles of virtue and oikeiosis invite us to reconsider the systems in place that govern our interactions and responsibilities. The contemporary movements calling for equity and justice resonate with Chrysippus's assertion that justice is fundamental to ethical living. In illuminating the stark inequalities present in various societal structures, Chrysippus would likely encourage a thoughtful examination of how our actions perpetuate or challenge these injustices. For example, activists advocating for criminal justice reform work from the understanding that the laws and systems governing society do not always reflect the principles of justice inherent to Stoic thought. Rather than merely condemning current structures, a Chrysipian approach would seek to engage with law as an extension of virtue, striving to craft legislation that reflects ethical considerations in the interests of the common good. In challenging punitive measures with rehabilitative approaches, reformers could focus on fostering understanding and compassion, which are virtues Chrysippus would endorse. This imperative to reflect on our responsibilities extends to the realm of business and economics, where the emphasis on profit often overshadows considerations of virtue. The modern dialogue around corporate social responsibility aligns neatly with the Stoic precept of interconnection. When businesses adopt ethical practices, it reinforces the notion that their well-being is tied to the communities they serve. A true Stoic approach in business would advocate for practices that emphasize not only economic success, but also the communal implications of their operations, acknowledging their role in cultivating the common good. Chrysippus also envisioned a world where virtue and rationality guided governance. His understanding of justice as ensuring the well-being of the collective suggests means by which leaders today can establish policies grounded in ethical practices. In political structures influenced by corruption or inequality, the cosmopolitan perspective he advanced serves as a guide, urging citizens to hold their leaders accountable to ideals that prioritize shared well-being. In this regard, the work of modern political theorists and philosophers builds on Chrysippus's legacy, critiquing systems that fail to reflect justice or the interconnectedness of humanity. Figures like John Rawls, with his principles of justice, echo the Stoic insistence on fairness and the good life. illustrating how ideas evolve yet retain ties to philosophical roots. This historical connection asserts that contemporary moral philosophy cannot be divorced from its ancestors, while demonstrating how crucial the interplay between past wisdom and present dialogue is in shaping future ethical discussions. By looking at the intersections of Chrysippus's moral philosophy with modern dialogues on technology, social justice, mental health, and governance, we paint a vivid picture of an ethical framework that is both enduring and adaptable. The challenges we face today are complex, yet mirror the insights of ancient thinkers like Chrysippus. His teachings remind us that true happiness emerges not solely from individual attainment, but from a virtuous life that acknowledges our interconnectedness and responsibilities towards one another. Ultimately, these threads of Stoic thought compel us to assimilate their lessons into our contemporary ethos. As we ponder how to live more ethically in our world, we should return to the essential questions that lie at the heart of Chrysippus's doctrines. How do we cultivate virtue in our choices and influence our communities positively? In what ways can we engage with the emotions that guide our decisions while maintaining a commitment to rationality and virtue? Reflecting on these timeless Stoic inquiries allows a deeper understanding of our own lives and the moral landscapes we all traverse. Chrysippus provides a reminder that in seeking eudaimonia, or flourishing, we must continuously question our practices, confront our commitments to one another, and acknowledge the intricate web of connections that shapes our existence. Whether exploring the digital commons, advocating for just policies, or fostering compassion in personal relationships, the essence of living well remains rooted in virtuous action, informed by reason, compassion, and awareness. As we draw this episode to a close, consider how you might engage with these Stoic principles in your own life. How might the understanding of virtue, interconnectedness, and responsibility toward others shape your actions in everyday contexts? Employing these ancient teachings can empower us to cultivate a way of being that honors our shared humanity while striving towards the common good. By integrating the insights of Chrysippus, we open the door to a more ethical, reasoned, and fulfilling existence in the world around us.
Midnight rails under silver moon, dusty boots on a winding road. A shadow's the only friend I've known since she packed up and let me go. Empty whiskey bottle on the seat, her laugh still echoes in my bones. Saddle's heavy with memories. I ride alone where the wind still blows. Nowhere else to be. 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 Sunrise paints the horizon gold, but it don't warm a lonesome soul. Every town I pass feels half her size. Every trail's haunted by goodbye. I whisper prayers to open skies, hoping someday my heart'll find a brand new path beyond the pain, where broken hearts can heal in time. Nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be.